have a question. Who here feels sorry about Nebraska? Do you guys feel sorry for them? Are we supposed to feel sorry for them? They asked for this, right?
Hey, Nebraska, do you need a tissue for your issues? Hey, Nebraska, save the drama for your mama. What happened, Nebraska? Did voting for Trump ruin your economy? Oh, that's weird. That's so weird. It's kind of like we told you so, right? Oh, I love this. I like to stick it in your face and rub it in. It's kind of like, when Trump was telling everybody he was going to come after the undocumented people in this country that were working hard and deport them, that they would kind of move to a state they felt safe in. And apparently, Nebraska wasn't one of them. They packed up their stuff and they headed on out to a state that would welcome them with open arms. So now you're going bankrupt. And as somebody that lives in a blue state, I could give a shit less. You voted for this. You voted for this. And now you're getting it. So why are you mad at us? We didn't vote for this. Nope. We voted completely against this. You voted for this. I better not get one BS comment. Not one. Not one. Oh, how mean you are. The stink. You're so mean. Shut up. Shut up. I'm not mean. I'm just giving you what you wanted. You wanted this. You voted for it. You made your bed. Now lay in it.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
Do you care about Nebraska? Because I have a feeling you voted for this. I mean, Nebraskans don't even care about Nebraska. Let me ask you another question. Who exactly did you think were going to work in the fields and in the farms after all of the regular day laborers, people of color, are no longer there anymore? Who did you think was going to do it? Did you think that there was just this army of white workers ready to get into those farms and pick all the vegetables? Now people like you who voted for this to happen are upset that something's affecting you, because what people like you tend to really vote for, it's not the economy. It's because you want to express racism and bigotry, and he was the only way that you could do that. But now it's affecting you. All those farms are disappearing, including that 300-year-old farm. And you want to know why nobody's upset at that? It's because you guys did it to yourself. You'd rather vote to have your racism easily spread across the United States instead of thinking about yourself, because you always vote against your own interests, don't you? And isn't it just like you? You voted to hurt other people, but now when it's starting to hurt you, you want us to feel sympathetic for you.
Hey, Nebraska, I hear that you get to be Trump's next bankruptcy. Good for you. Way to go. See, your racism and your transphobia and your hatred of women was just bigger than your sense of self-preservation. Yes, it was. And now you're going to lose your granddaddy's farm. See, just like during the pandemic, when there were all of these subsidies and bailouts for farmers, but they went to the mega corporate farms instead of folks like you, you didn't learn your lesson. So now all those tax breaks and handouts and subsidies are going to go to the folks that are waiting in the wings to swoop up your little piece of legacy.
I'm seeing a lot of hate towards these Nebraskan farmers, and I would love to hate on them. But we have to root for them, because if these small farms go out of business, who's going to buy up these small farms? It's going to be the corporations. And we're going to be even more fucked than we are now. They're just going to be able to rule everything, price gouge us on everything. So, as much as I don't want to be supportive, we kind of have to support them and, do anything we can to help them out, even though they voted for the wrong person.
So at this point, does Nebraska even care about Nebraska? I don't really know, because I don't follow the politics like that, but it seems like they're in their FAFO phase, and it is what it is. We're finding out. Y'all were told, but you still did it anyway, so, here we are.
What happens when you vote against your own best interest? Well, Nebraska is finding out the hard way. MAGA cattle ranchers and farmers in Nebraska, many of whom proudly voted for Donald Trump because of racism, are now in tears as their farms are facing collapse. Why? Because the very immigrants they wanted out, turns out, are the ones that were keeping their farms running. And unfortunately, Nebraska is now facing bankruptcy in just 6 months with no workers in sight. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, kindly consider subscribing, like the video, and drop me your opinions in the comment section below. I'll be back with more commentary.
I cannot believe that my family farm and my home state of Nebraska are going to be flat broke within 6 months. I cannot believe this is happening. I cannot believe that the undocumented workers who basically drive our entire agricultural economy just got up and left. They just left. Why? Because we voted for Trump? Because we voted to have them torn from their homes in the middle of the night by ICE, because we wanted to see their families ripped apart because we don't like brown people, so they just abandoned us in our hour of need before we were able to like replace them with, I don't know, like white teenagers or something like that, you know, like before we were able to identify and employ an entire demographic of people who's willing to make less than minimum wage for terrible working conditions. I can't believe this is happening. If only somebody had told us that this was a possibility. If only somebody like Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or Bernie Sanders or any of the liberal politicians.
Does anybody care about Nebraska? That's the question that's going around TikTok right now, and to that I respond with two questions. Did Nebraska care about anybody else? And does Nebraska care about Nebraska? Because you see, God helps those who help themselves. And when you Nebraskans walked into the voting booth and overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to be president, and now you're feeling the effects of that, this isn't I told you so. This is an FAFO. And I know there are Nebraskans out there that voted for Kamala Harris and did not fall into the trap of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there were not enough of you. And now the rumors, and I'm having a hard time substantiating some of this, but the vibe that's going around is that Nebraska basically looks to be bankrupt in about 6 months because of the undocumented migrants that are being deported, or just the fact that undocumented migrants make up a large portion of their state and workforce on the farms. And they're not showing up to work because they're now afraid they're going to be deported. So Nebraskans, especially farmers in Nebraska, did you think any further than the front of your face? Did you think any further, or were you just blinded by hate? And now people are coming out here asking, what about Nebraska? Do you guys care about Nebraska? No, I've already answered it, but the short answer is no. No, we don't. We don't care about Indiana, where I'm from. We don't care about Kentucky losing their bourbon up in Canada. We don't care about Jack Daniels in Tennessee. We don't care about the auto industry in Michigan. Are we all going to feel this? Yes, it's going to hurt. The disruptions in the food supply from Nebraskan farmers is going to hurt everybody. We are not immune, but we can't care. We can't care. We have no more sympathy to give. You guys had a chance. We spent our time telling you, talking to you, talking at you because you wouldn't listen. You decided to vote for Donald Trump, and here he is undoing your entire workforce. And when you lose your family farm of 150 years to a private company who's going to buy up all the land when you guys can't pay your bills, that's the state of America we're going to be in, because you decided to vote for hate over the rest of the country and your own good. You cut off your nose to spite your face. So Nebraska, we don't care. God helps those who help themselves, and you decided you didn't want help.
So a little birdie told me, you know, a word on the street, if you will, that there are a lot of jobs available in Nebraska currently, like right now. For those of you who swore up and down that, you know, undocumented immigrants were stealing jobs from Americans, there are so many jobs available for you, like right now. You know, you same people that would tell folks to just move to a cheaper state to leave their expensive blue cities. Nebraska, they're almost their entire workforce gone. Peace out. I can't tell you what the wage will be. I'm almost positive it's not going to be no $30, $35, $40 an hour. You're not going to be pulling in coin. but there are jobs. Y'all swore, but y'all can go if you swear that the only hardworking people are you Americans and the legal immigrants. Like, prove us wrong. Tell us that the illegal immigrants were in fact the problem. Just go get their jobs. Go take them. Y'all, please apply now. I'm sure they would love to have you.
Oh, does anybody care about Nebraska? Sure as fuck don't. Sure as fuck do not. And I'll tell you why. Because I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I live in a big blue dot in a big, ugly, flat red state. And I could leave. I have the education and the teeth to do something else with my life. And a neutral enough accent that no one would even know that I come from Hicktown, USA. But the thing is, you cousin fucking, jug blowing, IHOP monkeys with 49 fucking teeth per 100,000 residents, you are getting exactly what you ordered. You voted for the Lions Eating Faces party without realizing that you too have a face. And the lion doesn't give a fuck about your political affiliations. And here's the deal. Listen, I get it. You were animated by hate and you didn't think it was ever gonna come home to roost, like the million fucking stank-ass chickens that make up the vast majority, one might even say the footing bricks of your economy. And now you're like, oh no, I didn't think the lion was gonna eat my face. No, that's right. You thought that the lion would selectively eat the faces, the brown faces, off of people that you decided based on nothing but the fucking Simon Says game that the Republican Party plays with hateful, low IQ, low critical thought people every fucking 2 and 4 years. They do it every time. And you know what? You all line up like the good little bitches that you are, and you say, I'd love to take my marching orders, sir. And listen, here is the most insulting part, and I'll tell you why. I live in Indianapolis. I live in a big blue dot in a red state. And I, as a blue voter who is trying to make this state better, has had to suffer the consequences of the legislation the other higher echelon, jug-blowing, cousin-fucking IHOP monkeys put in place here. There are certain bands that won't tour here. There are certain traveling productions that won't come here. It sucks, but you know what? It is a reasonable consequence of people standing on their principles. And here's the thing about your principles. They don't exist. They don't exist. They only exist when it comes to you personally getting what you want or what you don't want, because you all have the long-term consequence appreciation of a fucking toddler. Honestly, that's kind of insulting to toddlers. Do I care about Nebraska? No. I don't care about Nebraska, and Nebraska doesn't care about Nebraska, because you know what? Alabama tried this bullshit several years ago, and it ended up in hundreds of millions of dollars of agricultural losses because actual white Alabamans, your friends and neighbors, don't in fact want to stay bent over in the hot fucking sun for $4 an hour. Imagine that. The last and most insulting thing, and I'll be super real about this, is the fact that no matter how much you hate me, no matter how much you hate my black and brown neighbors, no matter how much you hate Spanish speakers, and despite the fact that you do not speak even English that well and demand that others speak English, you first, sirs and ma'ams, I still, despite all that, think that you deserve a dignified life. I think that you deserve health care. I think that you deserve not to be bent over and fucked with no grease by every fucking corporate entity that is trying to pickpocket you for the last few pennies in those threadbare pockets. Do I fucking care about Nebraska? I sure as fuck don't. Welcome to fucking big school. Welcome to Red State Big School. where you vote against your own best interests, and then like some fucking miracle, you're suddenly realizing that these people are not on your side. You all have the intelligence and the appreciation for long-term consequences that a dog does. And like a dog, the thing that you actually need is to be bopped on the nose with a newspaper, and it's finally happening. It's finally fucking happening. You are actually getting the immediate pain-inducing consequences that anybody on the left could have told you was coming. But you said, America first. And now you're gonna feel the hurt that you deserve. You are going to choke down the shit sandwich you ordered off the menu, and you have the fucking audacity to look around and say, hey, this tastes like shit. Bon appetit, motherfucker. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's going on with the tariffs and what's going on with the state of Nebraska, which I am from. Okay, I'm noticing a trend right now of a lot of things. When people talk about Nebraska, some people are saying that their stuff is getting removed, it's getting banned, it's whatever. Okay, but I want to talk about something. First thing I want to talk about is, yeah, Nebraska is going to go bankrupt in about 6 months. Nebraska, the state that relies on their agriculture to sustain the way of living. Okay, Nebraska. There's a lot of farmland in Nebraska, and Nebraska has been notoriously Republican for quite a long time. There's only subsets of cities that ever really vote Democratic or anything like that, like in Omaha, and so forth. But the Nebraska, the place that relies on their agriculture for any type of profit, is going bankrupt. One of our senators, Pete Ricketts, is kissing boots right now to the Trump administration as we are heading towards bankruptcy in about 6 months. I'm sure you have heard people talk about it, but I want to make it clear that right now, even though my state is on the decline and we have 6 months before we file bankruptcy, I don't want to hear a single one of y'all getting on this app right now trying to monetize off you regretting your vote. I don't want to hear it, because your racism. One, you, somebody who owns farmland, who relies on migrant workers to do all of these jobs, because you know you don't want to hire an American because, as you stated multiple times, that we're lazy, slow, and we want too much money. The same people who rely on migrant workers turned around and voted against their best interests, and now you have ICE doing sweeps and shit over here on a regular. And you're running around complaining. Now you're going to town halls. You're screaming. You're yelling. You're crying. You're fussing. For what? For something that you did? This is not the F around and find out anymore. Okay? What happens every time when it comes to Republicans is y'all constantly vote against your best interests and then want people who have socialist ideals and mindsets to come in and fix it so you can benefit, and then turn around and complain.
Alright guys, there you have it actually, and as we have seen in the videos, for decades Nebraska's economy has depended on agriculture and immigrant workers, many of whom are doing back-breaking labor that most Americans actually do not want to do. And also at the end of the day, unfortunately, they're getting paid pennies. Well, a lot of people are making a joke about it, that there is a lot of jobs in Nebraska if Nebraska is actually going to pay up, which unfortunately is not possible because the state of Nebraska has announced that it's gonna go bankrupt in just 6 months. This is because many Nebraska, MAGA farmers who support Trump, we know Nebraska is a red state, and this red state depends on immigrant workforce. 70% of their workers are actually immigrants, and they went ahead and voted against their own best interest because of racism. We all know that they're against people of color, they're against immigrants, and they voted for mass deportations. They voted for Trump to actually deport these illegals, as they call them, but they did not think that this was going to affect their farmers. I don't know really what they were thinking, because how do they expect to replace that workforce with, white Americans? even black Americans. Nobody is gonna work in the fields below minimum wage. Of course, immigrant workers, don't have a choice because most of them do not have the papers to look for better jobs. So most of them end up in these kind of jobs. They end up in agricultural sector, they end up in construction, where they can actually lay low and work below minimum wage without a complaint because they don't have a choice. But many American citizens actually have a choice. They cannot work in the fields below minimum wage. And even if the payment was about good enough, I know most Americans, especially black Americans, will never do that job because of the history related to that, working in the fields and picking up crops. So the state of Nebraska has announced that it's running a risk of going bankrupt. Now this news is sweet MAGA tears to those who actually want many MAGA Trump supporters from actually voting against their own best interest. A lot of people have been coming online, especially from videos which people are asking, does anybody care about Nebraska? And many people are actually going ahead and replying, we don't care about Nebraska because we tried to tell you so. We tried to warn you, but you did not listen. You went ahead and voted against your own best interest. Why would you vote for a man that is going to deport 70% of your workforce? That means that your hatred and racism was in too deep. It was bigger than the interest of looking out for yourself, the interest of looking up for your own farms. A lot of people are saying that this is a way of crushing out small farmers so that these farms can be bought out by big corporations so that, everybody can depend on these big corporations. So this is actually going to be a big risk because everything is going to be owned by the big elite, corporations and billionaires, even the food that we put on our plates. But regardless of that, these people in Nebraska, these ranchers, these farmers did not listen when they were warned. And this is not the first time that farmers are having this kind of experience. They had this kind of experience in the first term of the orange man in charge, but it seems that they never learned their lesson. So maybe this time you need to learn your lesson. It's about time that you learn your lesson, because when the time actually comes and you have an opportunity to cast that vote in the ballot box, then you're gonna think about your own best interest and vote for your interest, not because of racism and hatred. And for the immigrants who are not going to work in the farms in Nebraska, what did you expect? Do you want them to come to your farms so that they can be raided by ICE and deported? A lot of them are fearing for their welfare, so many of them actually have run to blue states where they are assured a little bit of safety, and a lot of them actually have chosen not to go to work at all. So Nebraska, you voted against your own best interest. You voted for this. You brought this to yourselves. People are enjoying your tears, MAGA sweet tears. Let me know in the comment section, guys. If you're new to the channel, kindly consider subscribing, like the video, and drop me your opinions. And as always, see you on the next episode.